Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel. Welcome to my channel where I discuss books, ideas, words, philosophies, and more with both joy and enthusiasm. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, more book reviews, more discussions, please subscribe to my channel for more content. Today is such an exciting day because today I'm going to be discussing my top 5 all-time favorite C.S. Lewis books. I'm a huge Clive Staples Lewis fan. I've read many of his books and I'm going to be discussing the top 5 that I think were either the most enjoyable reads or had the most impactful philosophies within its pages. I hope that you're as excited as I am to dive into this top 5 list. I'm so eager to share with you why each one of these books made this list, why it was important to me, and why I think that you should also consider reading this top 5 list by C.S. Lewis. These books are not listed in any particular order. I think that they're all special in their own way, and it comes no surprise that first I'm going to bring up Mere Christianity. I'm bringing this book up first just because I think it's one that so many people have heard of, so many people have read and have been impacted by. Mere Christianity by Clive Staples Lewis. This book has made such an impact in so many people's lives. It was actually a series of radio broadcasts that were broadcasted during World War II. Unfortunately, most of the tapes did not survive because they were recycled for the war effort. But this book is here. It has been revised over time. C.S. Lewis has looked over it and said, I'm going to change a little bit of it. I'm going to edit it just because this was all spoken. And so he really made it into a book format. Something that I think is so unique about this book is that his intent was not to make a mere Christianity with the denomination. He said, hey, I'm going to go bare bones Christianity. Let's take down all of the fancy traditions that individual sects of Christianity have had. Let's get rid of our squabbles and our arguments. And let's say, what are the things about Christianity that every Christian across the denominations can agree with? What are the tenets of our faith that really drive Christianity or should be driving and pushing Christianity? These words were somewhat of a sermon, an argument, really intended for the people that were going to war, all the young, brave men and women in World War II that were really going knowingly to be slaughtered for the most part in the war effort. And so this was really a battle for people's souls at this point. C.S. Lewis was requested during a dark and desperate time to reach for these people's souls, to show them there is a God. You're about to go into real life, bloody battle. And so we need to equip these people with hope, with faith, and we know that there are arguments against the faith. We know there's argument against the hope, but C.S. Lewis really laid it all out, and he said, these are the reasons why I can show you philosophically, logically, spiritually, why you may want to reconsider your faith in God or your lack in faith in God, why there is a one true God, why it is the Christian God, and it really just lays it all out very simply for all audiences, and it was really a desperate attempt to reach people's souls who were going out into battle. And so this book has a crazy history, and it's been all formatted into a very readable, enjoyable book. I've read it several times already. I plan on reading it again and doing a book review for Mere Christianity. And there is so many reasons why this was the first one. I had to get it out of the way. I had to just say, hey, I'm sure that a lot of you saw this coming. And so that's why this was my first one on my top 5 favorite C.S. Lewis books. Now we're coming down to number 2 on my top 5 C.S. Lewis books, The Abolition of Man. This book is a book of philosophy. The reason that I have this as number 2 in my top 5 is because the topic that it discusses just hits so close to home for me. It's something that I'm so passionate about, that I love, that if you get me started on this topic, I'll rant on and on and on about. It is really about the abolition of man, the undoing of man, the destruction of man. And what C.S. Lewis says that it is really the destruction of objectiveness, the destruction of values, objective moral values, things that are true today, tomorrow, in the past, in the future, always, forever and ever. C.S. Lewis really goes to war in this book. He shows how there are so many examples of subtle changes to objectivity, saying that we can get looser and looser with our grip on an objective worldview. And things can become more and more subjective over time. And the thing is, this book was written almost 100 years ago, and it is just ringing truer and truer every day. C.S. Lewis argues that we should be clinging to age-old virtues like courage and honor and respect. He argues that we can't simply toss out objectivity because it makes us feel good to say, whatever I'm thinking and feeling must be right for me, because if you disagreed, that could hurt my feelings. And he calls that act of allowing subjectivity of morality, subjectivity of science, subjectivity of the mind, to be the abolition, the destruction, the undoing of man. So clearly, this is such an important topic, and it's something that I love to discuss, and why I think that the idea of subjectivity is just creeping in to our worldview, and it is completely destroying each other because it's setting man against man, because we can't even discuss ideas anymore, because if I think it's right and you think something different, well, I'm right to me and you're wrong to me, so we could never agree, because I'll always agree with my point of view, even if it's wrong, because there's no such thing as wrong. Clearly, you cannot think away gravity. Clearly, you can't just undo objective truths by thinking that it's wrong. If I say, well, I can fly today, and I jump off the Empire State Building, I'm most likely going to die. No matter how much I feel and believe that gravity will have no effect on me, there are objective truths, and sometimes they will hit you as hard as concrete at X miles an hour, and it is not pretty. But those things are true and everlasting, and he argues that there are objective moral values, that there are objective good virtues that we should hold up on a pedestal and encourage people to embody. This book argues that there are some truths that you can never undo no matter how much culture changes. And that is why I love this book. I can't wait to reread it. I read it while on deployment. I can't wait to reread it and do a book review about it, because I love to get wound up about this book. So those first two books were books of faith, spirituality, philosophy, science. These next three books are going to be completely fictitious books, works of fiction. C.S. Lewis even says in his Space Trilogy, don't read too much into these books. But I have a problem. I read way too much into these books, because even though he's painting a fictitious picture, there are so many truths that just jump out and shout out, and he's telling a story that is relevant to our everyday lives and is relevant to society and to the world around us. Even though it's a fun child's tale, there are so many truths that we can take away from these stories. Number 3 on this list is Out of the Silent Planet. Most people that know about C.S. Lewis may have never heard about this book or the series that it's a part of. It's actually part of the Silent Planet trilogy. There's a band that's named itself Silent Planet. It's a great band. Check it out. They're pretty awesome. Garrett Russell's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to start out saying this book was written in 1938, and then I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it, because I don't want to do a full review. I just want to say why this book is in my top 5. So this book is about a guy named Ransom. He is a linguist. He studies other languages. He gets kidnapped and sent to another planet, which was Mars, but they don't call it that. They call Mars something else. Read the book, find out all about it. It's really short. Look how thin this book is. But it is an immaculate, incredible book. And even when they describe the flight in 1938, nobody's flown to the moon yet. When he's just describing the flight in the spaceship, he takes into account all the actual things that would happen, like how the spaceship is spherical with a sphere in the middle and spinning, creating artificial gravity. I didn't know people have thought that much in 1938, but I guess I really didn't give people that much credit back then. I'm sure that I assumed that they were living in the Stone Ages when they really weren't. But the amount of detail that he puts into the little things in this book is incredible. The second reason why I'm completely in love with this book is because I did what he says not to do, and I read too much into it. And in this book, he talks about these spirit-like creatures called the Eldeal, or however you would pronounce it. I don't know, that's how it's spelled. And he talks about how they could possibly exist on the same plane as other physical creatures, but we wouldn't be able to see them and interact with them. And something that I love to bring up is he would say that he would say that it involves a different of speed or vibration, whatever you would call it. And he would say that to them, light to them is like running water to us, because they're moving so fast that in comparison, light would be like running water to us when we're moving at our normal speed that we're moving at. It's so much more complicated, and he dives really deep and gets way into the details of so many strange things. He pretty much paints a realistic portrait of the spiritual world, a world that we can't see. And he says not to read into it. I'm sure he was doing it for fun, but if you read his other books, you can tell that he's thought a lot about these things and how something that we can't see, feel, or touch could also exist alongside our physical reality. And I know that sounds super dumb and super nerdy, but I love reading stuff like that, and I have a great time doing it. And so that is why this book made number 3 on my list. Okay guys, so far we have Mere Christianity, a book of faith, spirituality, philosophy. Number 2, we have The Abolition of Man. Number 3, Out of the Silent Planet. And now, I'm sure that everybody was expecting this the whole time. We're getting to the good stuff, yada, yada, yada. Number 4, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, out of the Chronicles of Narnia series. I know you guys all expected this. I kept my 2 Narnia books all the way till the end so we can talk all about and have a good time. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is an absolute child's tale classic. It is a children's book. He was writing them for children. I know that he was going up against The Lord of the Rings, which seems like a much more mature series of books, but this is definitely a kid's book, but it is so enjoyable to read even as an adult. This is something where I can't wait to have kids one day so that I can share these books with my kids. They are absolutely, truly magical. Now, I must say that I'm not the biggest fan of every book in the entire series. I have read through the whole series. I read most of these books more than once, but not all of them are as magical as the rest. But I do love this book. It is a classic. There's multiple film adaptations of the book. The old movie was super cheesy with full-grown adults dressed up in beaver costumes, but I'm not here to talk about the movies, even though they were really good, especially the new one. I'm here to talk about the book, obviously. This book is absolutely a classic. So these kids stumble in through a magical closet and find a magical land, Narnia, that is cursed by the White Witch, and they run into a Mr. Tumnus, or at least one of them does. And then they run into some beavers, and then they go and save their brother, who is, if you watch the movie and even read the books, his choices were not so great. I don't know why some chewy candy Turkish sweets would make you betray your entire family, but he did. It's very interesting, but the adventure is bold, brave, and daring, and the creatures are brought to life, animated with voices, and of course, we cannot forget to mention the great Aslan, the personification of Christ himself, who dies so that Edmund, the betrayer, can come back and be with his family. It is a classic tale. I assume that the reason they started with this book when making the films was because it does tell the classic tale of Christianity. There's a little bit of the gospel hidden inside there. There's a bad guy. Some kid is like, yeah, I'm gonna listen to you. That's pretty cool. And then this lion guy is like, hey, well, guess what? You have done something wrong against your family and against all of us, but I will sacrifice myself so that you can be free. Sound familiar? Sounds familiar to me. That's because I grew up in church, I guess. But it is an absolutely must-read, beautiful tale. The series all the way through is definitely worth the read, although this is definitely one of my top favorite books in the whole Narnia series. We're going to get to my number 1 favorite book in the Narnia series next. Oh, leaving you in suspense. Is it The Silver Chair? Is it The Voyage of the Dawn Treader? Definitely no, not The Voyage of the Dawn Treader or The Silver Chair. Prince Caspian? No, absolutely not. It is The Magician's Nephew. How in the world have they not made a live action film based on The Magician's Nephew? What is going on? This book is by far my favorite Chronicles of Narnia book. It is absolutely wonderfully magical. It actually tells a tale of how the wardrobe made it into that wonderful mansion that leads to Narnia. It is the tale of 2 children running around in some kind of weird crawl space that goes in between the sides of all the connected homes and finding an uncle that actually does sorcery, finding magical rings that lead them to teleport through the lands. The way that C.S. Lewis illustrates these magical lands is absolutely fantastical. Very few people can bring an imaginary land to life the way that C.S. Lewis can. That's partly why I'm so disgruntled that they have not tried to adapt that to a major motion film, because I could just imagine the endless possibilities with trying to bring these scenes to life. These children find a portal world, a world full of portals using these magical rings, and they jump through these portals into these lands, and they find this lady who does sorcery, who is very pale. Sound familiar? Origin story? Yes, absolutely. They find a lion who breathes worlds into existence. The creator of all things. Sound familiar? Yes, the White Witch and Aslan get an origin story in The Magician's Nephew. This is an absolute must read. If you enjoy the Chronicles of Narnia whatsoever, you have to read this book, because this book tells it all. As much as I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, this is my number one. This is my favorite, 100%, hands down. Go read it. You have to. Please heed my advice, because it is 100% worth the read. When C.S. Lewis just takes you into these magical lands with these creatures, with these daring adventures, it just fills you full of awe and inspiration and wonder in ways that most authors cannot do. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my top 5 favorite C.S. Lewis books. Not necessarily in that order. I think that they're all super spectacular, that they all have a reason to be number 1 on the top. But those are my absolute top 5. Will read again. I could read those over and over again. Will tell other people to read them. Will share them. They are captivating. Even the philosophical books. Not all of C.S. Lewis's philosophy books or just dialogues really suck you in as well as these books can. Not all of them have as much content. Not all of them are as captivating. But these books, The Mere Christianity, The Abolition of Man, pull you in and keep you going through the entire book. The Out of the Silent Planet is absolutely magical and wonderful. Yes, there's 2 other books of the series, but there's a reason why that one made the list and the other 2 didn't. Paralandra is pretty great. The 3rd book, I've only gotten halfway through it on an audio tape and never finished it. The Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, there's more books than just those first 2, but there's a reason those 2 made it into the list and the rest didn't. Yes, the series is great as a whole, but those 2 stand out, stand alone. Both of those books are standalone reads. You could read one without the other and have just as much fun and magic without needing the other to supplement. If you have not read my top 5, Mere Christianity, The Abolition of Man, Out of the Silent Planet, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and The Magician's Nephew, get on it. I don't care if you don't like nonfiction or if you don't like fiction. They are absolutely impactful reads. They are enjoyable reads. They are a good time. If you've already read these books, please show some encouragement down in the comments below. If you finally read those books because of this video, please tell me, what did you think? What's your top 5? Did you have a better list? Put it in the comments below and tell me why your top 5 may be better than my top 5. Maybe there's books that I've missed, that I've completely overlooked. What is a book that you think should have made the list? Thank you so much for watching me rave on and on about the books by Clive Staples Lewis. This is my top 5. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you go and read those books. Or if you have read those books, tell me what you thought about them down below. Clive Staples Lewis is a brilliant man, and he is certainly missed. I hope that you had a great time watching me rant about C.S. Lewis and his wonderful books. I hope that you enjoyed my top 5, and I hope it inspires you to read more C.S. Lewis books. Once again, just thank you so much for being here on this channel, for watching this video. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic, wonderful day. Have a great day, guys.